First contact and betrayal. Admiral Rhiannon Kane stood at the observation deck of the TSS Artemis, Earth's flagship diplomatic vessel, watching the shimmer of FTL drives dying down as they dropped out of hyperspace. The Centauri system's twin suns cast long shadows across the sleek hull of her ship, creating a dance of light and darkness that seemed oddly prophetic. Admiral, the Meridian vessels have appeared exactly where predicted, Lieutenant Commander Vikram Patil reported from his station. 3 ships matching the specifications they transmitted during our first contact. Kane nodded, her weathered face reflecting decades of space service. The Meridians had appeared 6 months ago, presenting themselves as an advanced civilization interested in peaceful contact with humanity. Their technology was centuries ahead of Earth's, but they had approached with what appeared to be genuine interest in cultural exchange. Running final diagnostic on the quantum translators, Communications Officer Junko Tanaka announced, her fingers dancing across holographic controls. Translation matrices are stable and synchronized with Meridian protocols. The diplomatic mission represented humanity's first official meeting with the Meridians after months of careful preparation and cultural exchange via quantum communications. The Artemis carried Earth's finest diplomats, scientists, and a security detail that was more ceremonial than practical, a show of trust rather than force. "Something feels off," muttered Security Chief Marcus Rodriguez, his cybernetically enhanced eyes scanning the tactical displays. The Meridian ship's energy signatures are fluctuating in unusual patterns. Kane had learned to trust Rodriguez's instincts during their years serving together. "Elaborate, Chief." "The power distribution doesn't match their previous transmissions. They're running hot in sections that should be dormant during a diplomatic approach." Rodriguez's augmented fingers traced patterns in the air, manipulating the holographic display. "And their formation. It's more tactical than ceremonial." Kane felt her stomach tighten. 25 years in the Terran fleet had taught her that paranoia often meant survival. Shields up, but keep them at minimal power. Don't want to appear hostile. Alert status yellow, quiet, and clean. The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency, systems humming to life under their commands. The Artemis's sister ships, Damascus and Hyperion, maintained their positions flanking the flagship. "Meridian vessels are hailing us," Tanaka reported. "Audio and visual." "On screen," Kane ordered, straightening her uniform. The holographic display materialized, showing what appeared to be a Meridian, a tall, ethereal being with crystalline features and flowing, iridescent appendages. But something was wrong. The being's usual peaceful aura seemed somehow sharper, more predatory. "Admiral Kane," the Meridian spoke, its voice translated into eerily perfect English. "We appreciate your punctuality. Humanity's eagerness to embrace new civilizations is admirable." Kane felt the hairs on the back of her neck rise. "High Commander Zixtal, we come in peace and friendship as agreed." "Peace," the Meridian repeated, its crystalline features shifting in what might have been amusement. "An interesting concept. We've studied your species extensively, Admiral. Your capacity for violence is remarkable, exceeded only by your vulnerability to deception." The tactical display exploded with warnings as dozens of new signatures emerged from behind Centauri Beta, massive warships that had been hiding in the star's radiation shadow. "Weapons signatures detected," Rodriguez shouted. "They're charging primary systems." Kane's training took over. "Battle stations. All ships, emergency protocols. Get us out of." The first salvos struck before she could finish the order. The Damascus's shields flared and failed in seconds, its hull breaching in multiple locations. The Hyperion managed to launch a spread of quantum torpedoes before a beam of impossible power sliced it in half. "Return fire," Kane ordered, gripping her command chair as the Artemis shuddered under enemy fire. "All batteries, full spread. Get me fleet command. Priority ultraviolet." But the quantum communications array exploded under concentrated fire, and Kane watched in horror as more Meridian ships appeared, cutting off their escape vectors. "They're not trying to destroy us," Rodriguez realized, analyzing the attack patterns. They're hurting us. This isn't just an ambush. It's a capture operation. Kane's mind raced through options, each worse than the last. The Meridians had played them perfectly, using humanity's diplomatic nature against them. But she'd be damned if she'd let them take Earth's flagship without a fight. All hands, this is the Admiral, she broadcast shipwide. Initiate Protocol Omega. Purge all databases. And she took a deep breath. Prepare for boarding action. Show these bastards why humanity survived its own violent history. The battle that followed would become legend, not for its victory, for there could be none, but for what it revealed about both species. The Meridians learned that humans, even when outmatched, were capable of incredible damage. The Artemis crew, though ultimately defeated, destroyed 3 Meridian vessels and damaged 7 others before being overwhelmed. As Kane was dragged from her burning bridge, she managed to transmit one final, encrypted burst message to Earth. 3 words that would change the course of human history. They are coming. The message would reach Earth 3 days later, giving humanity precious time to prepare for what would become known as the Great Deception War. The Meridians had hoped to decapitate human leadership and demoralize Earth's defense forces. Instead, they had created a rallying cry that would echo across the galaxy. The war had begun, and humanity, despite all odds, was ready to show the galaxy exactly what it meant to underestimate Earth's children. The fall of Outpost Sigma. Outpost Sigma hung like a steel star against the backdrop of Jupiter's swirling storms, humanity's most advanced deep space defense station. Commander Yuki Tanagawa stood in the station's Combat Information Center, watching holographic displays track the approaching Meridian fleet. 8 days since Admiral Kane's last transmission, Lieutenant Hassan Ibrahim reported, his dark eyes fixed on the tactical readouts. Fleet Command confirms, this isn't a scouting force, it's an invasion fleet. Tanagawa nodded grimly. Outpost Sigma's quantum sensors had detected over 300 Meridian warships dropping out of FTL at the edge of the solar system. Their crystalline hulls reflected Jupiter's angry red storm, making them look like blood diamonds against the void. Status of the civilian evacuation? Tanagawa asked. Last transport cleared the Jupiter space dock 20 minutes ago, replied Operations Chief Natalia Volkov. All non-essential personnel are en route to Mars. Defense fleet is in position. Humanity had spent the 8 days since Kane's warning preparing for this moment. Outpost Sigma, designed as a first response center, had become humanity's first line of defense. 60 Terran warships, the best Earth could muster on short notice, formed a defensive screen around the station. The first Meridian attack came without warning. Beams of coherent energy lanced through space, striking with surgical precision. 2 Terran destroyers vanished in balls of plasma before their crews could even react. Return fire, Tanagawa ordered. All batteries, adaptive targeting protocols. They won't catch us sleeping twice. Outpost Sigma's massive rail guns roared to life, hurling depleted uranium shells at relativistic speeds. The station's experimental plasma cannons, untested in actual combat, added their fury to the barrage. Terran ships launched salvos of quantum torpedoes, their AI targeting systems learning and adapting with each exchange. But the Meridians had not revealed their full capabilities during the diplomatic deception. Their ships moved like liquid mercury, flowing around human weapons fire with impossible grace. Where hits did land, crystalline hulls absorbed or reflected the energy. Sir, Ibrahim's voice cracked with urgency. They're deploying something new, small craft, thousands of them. The tactical display bloomed with new contacts. Swarms of crystalline drones, each no larger than a fighter, poured from the Meridian ships. They moved in perfect synchronization, forming geometric patterns that shifted and flowed like schools of fish. Those aren't fighters, Volkov realized, analyzing the data. They're some kind of quantum-linked weapon platform. The patterns they're forming. Her words were cut off as the drone swarm unleashed its attack. Instead of conventional weapons, the drones created overlapping fields of distorted spacetime. Terran ships caught in these fields began to twist and break apart, their hulls stressed beyond structural limits. "New tactic," Tanagoa shouted. "Concentrate fire on the swarm patterns. Disrupt their geometric formations." The remaining Terran fleet adapted quickly, targeting the spaces between drones rather than the drones themselves. The strategy worked. Briefly, disrupted formations caused cascade failures in the quantum fields, destroying dozens of drones. But there were always more drones. "Station hull integrity at 60%, Ibrahim reported. "We're losing structural cohesion in sections 12 through 15. Tanagoa watched another Terran cruiser die, its crew fighting to the last second. They had barely scratched the Meridian capital ships, and the drone swarms were systematically taking apart their defenses. "Send the data package," she ordered quietly. "Everything we've learned about their tactics, their weapons. Encrypt it in the quantum burst and send it to Fleet Command." Volkov's fingers flew across her console. "Package away. Confirmed receipt by Luna Command." "Good." Tanagoa straightened her uniform. "Now, initiate Protocol Thanatos." Her officers stared at her for a moment before understanding dawned. Protocol Thanatos. The station's experimental quantum reactor could be modified to create a localized singularity. A black hole weapon, untested and likely to destroy everything in Jupiter's orbit. "The civilian ships," Ibrahim asked softly, "are far enough away," Tanagoa confirmed. "But the Meridian fleet is perfectly positioned. Their formation's center of mass is less than 10 light seconds from our position. When Sigma goes, it takes them with it." The next 10 minutes were a blur of activity. Emergency broadcasts warned the remaining Terran ships to clear the area. The quantum reactor's safeties were methodically disabled. Engineers worked feverishly to modify the containment fields. "Meridian forces have breached the outer hull," Ibrahim reported. "Boarding parties on multiple decks." Tanagoa nodded. "Time to show them how humans face defeat. All hands, this is the commander. It has been my highest honor to serve with you. For Earth." The crystalline warriors that burst onto the command deck found the human crew at their posts, working calmly even as the station's quantum core began its final countdown. The Meridian commander, recognizing the energy readings too late, sent a desperate warning to its fleet. Outpost Sigma's death created a new star in Jupiter's orbit, a pinpoint of infinite darkness that lasted less than a second. When it dissipated, half the Meridian fleet had vanished, drawn into oblivion by humanity's first quantum weapon. The sacrifice of Outpost Sigma bought Earth precious time and proved that humanity, even in defeat, was capable of inflicting devastating losses. More importantly, it provided crucial tactical data about Meridian capabilities, data that would prove vital in the battles to come. The war for Earth had truly begun, and humanity had shown it would not go quietly into the night. Operation Thunderstrike. General Zhao Wei stood in the underground command center beneath the Himalayas, watching tactical holograms track the ongoing guerrilla war across the solar system. 3 months had passed since the fall of Outpost Sigma, and humanity had learned to fight smart instead of fair. "Strike Team Valkyrie reporting success at Ganymede," Colonel Rashid announced. Hit-and-run attack destroyed 2 Meridian mining operations, 0 human casualties. Zhao allowed himself a small smile. The Meridians had expected humanity to collapse after their initial victories. Instead, humans had adapted, developing new tactics that turned their technological disadvantage into an advantage. "Show me the Neptune defense grid," he ordered. The hologram shifted, displaying the ice giant's orbital space. Hundreds of small signals showed human stealth fighters hiding in the planet's powerful magnetic field, waiting for their moment to strike. "Operation Thunderstrike is ready to commence," reported Strategic Aya Winston, its quantum processors analyzing countless variables. Meridian patrol patterns have been fully mapped. Their predictability is their weakness. That had been the key discovery. Meridian tactics, while devastatingly effective, were based on mathematical precision and predictable patterns. Their quantum-linked drone swarms moved in perfect geometric formations. Their ships followed optimized patrol routes. They were magnificent, but they lacked human creativity. All strike teams. This is control. Zhao broadcast. Operation Thunderstrike is go. Show them what chaos looks like. Across the solar system, human forces launched synchronized attacks. But these weren't conventional military strikes. They were carefully orchestrated disruptions designed to exploit Meridian psychology. Near Venus, stealth ships released clouds of specialized nanites that interfered with the crystalline resonance of Meridian hulls. In the asteroid belt, mining charges detonated in seemingly random patterns, disrupting the geometric formations of drone swarms. Around Mars, quantum noise generators created false signals that confused Meridian targeting systems. They're responding exactly as predicted, Winston reported. Meridian forces are attempting to reform into standard combat patterns. But there were no patterns in this battle. Human ships struck from impossible angles, their attacks deliberately irregular and chaotic. Fighters powered down completely, going ballistic to slip through Meridian sensor nets before powering up for point-blank attacks. Meridian command signals showing signs of confusion. Colonel Rashid noted with satisfaction. Their attempt to coordinate a response is creating gaps in their defense grid. That was the true purpose of Operation Thunderstrike, not to win battles, but to prove that Meridian superiority could be challenged. Each successful guerrilla strike forced them to adapt, to deviate from their perfect patterns. New Meridian tactic detected, Winston warned. They're attempting to predict our attack vectors using chaos theory algorithms. Zhao laughed. They still don't understand. Show them Phase 2. Phase 2 was beautiful in its simplicity. As Meridian forces adapted to the chaos, human attacks suddenly shifted to perfect, geometric patterns. Ships moved in mathematical formations that mimicked Meridian tactics exactly. The enemy, prepared for chaos, found themselves facing a mirror of their own strategies. Multiple Meridian vessels showing signs of combat stress, Rashid reported. Their quantum-linked systems are experiencing cascade failures from the tactical dissonance. The battles raged for hours, human forces shifting unpredictably between chaos and order, between perfectly calculated strikes and seemingly random attacks. Each shift forced Meridian commanders to reevaluate, their crystalline neural networks struggling to process warfare that defied pure logic. When the operation finally ended, humanity had destroyed over 60 Meridian ships and countless drones. More importantly, they had proven that superior technology could be defeated by tactical flexibility. Interesting, Winston noted, analyzing the battle data. Meridian combat efficiency dropped by 23% when faced with rapid shifts between order and chaos. Their neural networks show signs of. Show signs of what? Zhao asked. Stress, sir, or perhaps frustration. They're experiencing an emotional response to our tactics. That revelation would change everything. The Meridians weren't just mechanical beings following perfect patterns. They could be frustrated, confused, and demoralized. They could make mistakes. Operation Thunderstrike marked a turning point in the war. Humanity had found its edge. The ability to be both chaos and order, to shift between perfect calculation and pure instinct. The Meridians had superior technology, but humans had something they couldn't quantify, the ability to embrace contradiction. The next phase of the war would test whether that advantage was enough to save Earth. The neural network gambit. Dr. Isabel Blackwood hadn't slept in 3 days, but the equations floating in her lab's holographic display were too important for rest. The decoded Meridian neural patterns from Operation Thunderstrike had revealed something extraordinary. Run the simulation again, she ordered. Focus on the stress patterns during the chaos order transitions. Her team of quantum programmers and xenoneurologists watched as the battle data played out in abstract mathematical forms. The Meridian ship's movements, their drone swarms formations, all of it translated into pure information. "There," said Dr. Raj Patel, pointing to a recurring pattern. "Their neural networks don't just communicate, they resonate. It's almost like music," Isabel finished. "They're not just sharing data, they're sharing consciousness. Their entire fleet thinks as one being." The discovery had come from an unlikely source, a classical musician turned combat analyst who noticed that Meridian combat patterns followed rules similar to complex symphonies. Their ships moved in harmony, each action part of a larger composition. "If we can understand the melody," Isabel muttered, "we can change the song." The next week was a blur of quantum calculations and neural mapping. Isabel's team worked around the clock, developing a way to interface with Meridian consciousness. It wasn't hacking in the traditional sense. It was more like learning to sing in their quantum harmony. Fleet Command's getting impatient, warned Admiral Thompson during his daily check-in. "The Meridians are regrouping for another push toward Earth. We need a weapon, not a theory." "What we need," Isabel replied, not looking up from her calculations, "is to stop thinking like humans trying to fight Meridians, and start thinking like Meridians trying to fight themselves." The breakthrough came from an accident. During a test of their quantum interface, a junior researcher started humming an old Earth melody. The Meridian neural patterns in their captured drone suddenly shifted, its crystalline structure resonating with the sound. "They don't just think in patterns," Isabel realized. "They feel in patterns. And feelings can override logic." The weapon they developed wasn't really a weapon at all. It was a song, a quantum frequency that mimicked Meridian neural patterns, but carried within it the full spectrum of human emotion. Fear, anger, joy, love, all translated into crystalline resonance. "We're ready for the field test," Isabel reported to Fleet Command. "But we need volunteers. The interface requires human minds to generate the emotional content. And the neural load, it won't be pleasant." The volunteers came from everywhere: musicians, mathematicians, artists, and soldiers. Each would link with the quantum interface, their thoughts and feelings transformed into signals that could pierce Meridian consciousness. The test target was a Meridian patrol fleet near Saturn. 5 human ships, equipped with the new quantum resonators, approached in standard combat formation. "Interface active," reported Captain Jennifer Blake from the lead ship, beginning emotional broadcast. The effect was immediate and stunning. The Meridian ship's perfect formations began to waver. Drone swarms moved erratically, their geometric patterns dissolving into chaos. The entire enemy fleet seemed to shudder as human emotions flooded their neural networks. "They're experiencing emotion without context," Isabel explained to the watching admirals. "Imagine feeling love, fear, and rage simultaneously, with no framework to process them." The Meridian fleet retreated in disarray, their legendary coordination shattered by the emotional overload. But the victory came at a cost. The human volunteers emerged from the interface exhausted, some with neural damage from the intense mental strain. "It's not sustainable," Captain Blake reported. "The human mind isn't meant to broadcast emotions at this intensity. We can't maintain the interface for more than a few minutes." But a few minutes was enough. The Meridians had experienced something they couldn't quantify or predict: the raw, chaotic nature of human consciousness. Their perfect neural networks had been contaminated with feelings they couldn't process. More importantly, the attack had revealed something crucial about their enemy. The Meridians weren't emotionless machines. They were beings who had chosen to suppress their emotions in favor of perfect logic, and that suppression was now their greatest weakness. "They'll adapt," Admiral Thompson warned. "Find ways to shield their neural networks." Isabel smiled. "That's exactly what we want, because to shield themselves from emotion, they'll have to acknowledge it exists. And once they do that, they'll start to feel it themselves." Raj finished. "We're not just attacking their ships, we're awakening their buried consciousness." The neural network gambit had changed the nature of the war. It was no longer just a battle for survival. It was a fight for the very soul of a species that had forgotten it had one. The final phase would determine whether humanity could awaken the Meridians' humanity before their combined fleets reached Earth. Humanity's finest hour. The Meridian fleet hung in high Earth orbit like a constellation of crystal stars, their ships still bearing scars from battles across the solar system. Below them, the combined forces of humanity prepared for what everyone knew would be their last stand. Admiral Rhiannon Kane, rescued from Meridian captivity by a daring raid 3 months earlier, stood on the bridge of the newest Earth ship, the TSS Phoenix. The vessel represented humanity's final technological leap, a hybrid of human innovation and reverse-engineered Meridian technology. "All ships report ready," Lieutenant Commander Patil announced. The same officer who had served with her during the first contact now stood beside her for what might be their last battle. "The emotional resonators are charged and synchronized." Kane nodded, watching the tactical display where over 1,000 human ships took up defensive positions around Earth. They were outnumbered 2-1, but numbers had stopped mattering months ago. Signal from Meridian Command. Communications reported. They're requesting dialogue. That was new. Since the neural network gambit had begun affecting their fleet consciousness, the Meridians had shown signs of internal conflict. Some ships had retreated from battle inexplicably, while others fought with increasing desperation. On screen, Kane ordered. The holographic display showed not one, but 2 Meridian commanders. Their crystalline features were subtly different, one bearing the rigid patterns of traditional Meridian authority, the other showing signs of what Dr. Blackwood had termed emotional fracturing. "Humans of Earth," the first Meridian spoke, its voice carrying the familiar cold precision. "Your resistance has exceeded all logical parameters. You have corrupted our neural networks with your chaos. Surrender now, and we will cleanse rather than destroy." But the second Meridian interrupted, its crystalline form shifting with what could only be described as agitation. "We have felt what you feel. Your emotions, they are not corruption. They are awakening." Civil war in the middle of an invasion, Patel.